911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys? I hope that everyone is doing well. I know this is not normal for me to be live on a Monday night, but I had to go live. We had a document drop of the transcript that we've been waiting for from Francis Gulls Chambers on October 19th. And I could not talk about this because there's already a narrative out there where people are trying to throw Fran Gull under the bus. And I wanted to get ahead of that. Hold on just give me 1 second here. I'm trying to multitask. I'm having trouble. Okay. I know because it's not my normal night, it's not my normal time. I may very well have people not show up tonight. They may not have gotten the notification sent to them from YouTube. I did put my thumbnail up late, but it was after the document was dropped and released. So anyway, it is what it is. And if I do get, a lot of people watching on replay, that's fine. That's great as well. I just wanted you guys to know why I decided to jump on. I was just mad when I was watching some of the commentary and the comments from people on social media regarding this document. So I want to welcome everyone who is here with me tonight. If you're new here, I please ask that all of you remain kind and keep your comments professional. Please do not attack the moderators or your fellow commenters. Please make sure that you are being respectful of the families. I do not allow any kind of bashing of the families in this channel. And I just ask that everybody remain respectful of each other. We can all agree to disagree, but we can do it in a very kind and respectful manner. And that's all the rules that I truly have. I don't talk about politics and I don't talk about religion on this channel. So let's welcome everyone. Hello, Cool Gamer. Hey, John. How are you doing tonight? Hey, Deborah. How are you? Good to see you, my dear. How are you, Angela? Good to see you. Hi, Lynn. How are you? Good to have you with me. Hey, Stephanie, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Hey, Jill, always good to have you in the house. Hey, 63 Clocks, thank you so much for being here. Hey, Criminal Med, we are talking about Delphi tonight. Hi, Jamie. How are you? Hey, Carol, good to see you. Yeah, that is pretty much it. That's why people are angry. And people are saying that she overstepped, that she has an agenda and all of this. And I don't find that at all with her. And I want to talk about a little bit first before we get into the document, because I am going to go over the document with you guys. I wanted to talk to you about Judge Frances C. Gull, what some of her professional background is, and her legal expertise. First of all, Judge Gull is a elected judge in Allen County Circuit Court in Allen County, Indiana. She was elected in 1996 in Allen County Superior Court, and in 2020 she was reelected. Judge Gull went to school. She got her Bachelor's of Science at St. Joseph's College in 1980, and she got her Juris Doctor degree at Valparaiso University School of Law in 1983. And she is currently in the Allen County Superior Court Department 5 Criminal Division. And she's in Superior Court. She was previously in Circuit Court. Circuit Court is an appointment. Those judges that are in the circuits are appointed. The judges that are in the superior courts are elected. She was a law clerk in her career history while she was attending law school. She was a law clerk in Allen County Superior Court. She was also in probate court in Allen County. She was the commissioner, and she worked in the commissioner and traffic court as a referee in Superior Court. She was a deputy prosecutor in Allen County as well, in the prosecutor's office. She also served as a magistrate in Allen County Circuit Court early in her career. She was the chief deputy prosecutor and chief counsel for Allen County's prosecutor office. And then she was appointed to as a judge. And from there, she was elected And she has served 2 terms now. Her current term ends in 2026. She's won numerous awards. So, during Judge Gull's judicial tenure, she served as the administrative judge of the criminal division. And in 2022, she was appointed by the Indiana Supreme Court to oversee the Delphi murders case involving the abduction and murders of Liberty German and her friend Abigail Williams in Delphi, Indiana in 2017. She was appointed by the Indiana Supreme Court because the original trial judge recused himself and stepped down. She's dedicated to innovations in jury management, restorative justice, and the use of technology in the courts. She was awarded the G. Thomas Munsterman Award for Jury Innovation from the National Center for State Courts in 2015. And she has also supervised the county's drug court program. Prior to her election, she worked as a chief deputy prosecutor and chief counsel with the Allen County Prosecutor's Office from 1990 to 1996. Her assignments included the Criminal Division, the Sex Crimes Unit, and Felony Division. Frances Gull began prosecuting sex crimes against women and children before transitioning to robbery, burglary, arson, battery, and other felony offenses. She finished her prosecutorial career handling all homicides, high-profile felonies, arson investigations, and cases involving political figures. Frances Gull first joined the office as a deputy prosecutor in 1987. In between her time as a prosecutor, she also served on the Allen County Circuit Court as a magistrate in the Civil Division for the Honorable Thomas L. Ryan from 1988 to 1989. She also spent time as a probate court commissioner and traffic court referee from 1984 to 1987 with the Allen County Superior Court, where she began her legal career as a law clerk in the family and criminal divisions back in 1983. She received her law degree in 1983, and she was admitted to practice in Indiana in 1984. She has served on the Stop Child Abuse and Neglect Campaign for Children, the Allen County Community Corrections Executive Board, the Indiana Judicial Center's Strategic Planning Committee, and the Indiana Judges Association. She has also been a guest speaker for local businesses and schools and trained and lectured on various topics, including search and seizure, general criminal law, juvenile law, domestic violence, arson investigation, and issues involving prosecution and the criminal justice system. Some of her accolades include the Community Service Award from the Fort Wayne Fire Department in 2003 and the Citizen of the Year Award from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette in 2002. When not presiding over legal matters, Judge Gull enjoys cooking, gardening, and is known for her raspberry vinegar and garlic dill pickles. So there you go. That's a little background on Judge Gull. And I thought it was extremely interesting that people want to say that she really is not up on the law, doesn't know what she's doing. Not that that judges don't make mistakes, because trust me, judges aren't infallible and they make mistakes. But this woman has a lot of experience, you guys. Well over 40 years of experience, to be exact. Not only as a prosecutor and prosecuting deputy attorney, but also as a bench judge. I mean, she's been in circuit court and now in superior court. And she has been considered for the Indiana Supreme Court. And I imagine at some point, if she stays active, she may very well get there. She seems to know the law well. Her fight for women's rights, for justice against crimes against women, I think is important, and I commend her for that, as well as her wanting technology in our court system. She is one of the judges who actually tested out cameras in the courtroom, because up until up until January of this year, they didn't allow them in Indiana. And now they do. And she is instrumental in that because she tested it in her own courtroom. She was one of the test judges that tested it out, and she's for it. So I really think people need to take a stand back and not just try to throw her under the bus. And we're going to get into it. Trust me, we are going to unpack this, you guys, because I'm very emotional with what's being said and what's going on. So the document that they released today is the transcript of the in-camera proceedings of the state of Indiana versus Allen from October 19th, 2023. And if you all remember, that was when Judge Gull called them all to Allen County, to her courtroom. They did not meet in Delphi. She called them to Fort Wayne, and everybody had to go there. So anyway, let's go on here. Jody L. Williams was the court reporter who transcribed what happened that day in the chambers. Now, I want to bring everybody up. Hey, John, welcome back. Hey, David. She was appointed as a circuit judge. She was elected as a superior judge. And her term is up in 2026. She was reelected in 2020. And if you want to find out where you can find that information, all you have to do is go to Trellis, because that is where you can find information on judges, their verdicts, all kinds of information, their professional backgrounds, and that is where it's at. But she was reelected to the Superior Court in 2020. All right, moving on. I just wanted to bring everybody else up to speed that on October the 12th, before this proceeding happened in Fort Wayne, Frances Gull contacted everyone. She contacted the prosecution and she contacted the defense. But she contacted the defense by phone, and in that phone call, she ordered them to stop working on Richard Allen's case. That was 7 days before the October 19th court date, when she requested that they all come for a hearing to Fort Wayne. Now, couple of things. As defense attorneys, if you hear from the court that they want you to stop working on a case that you're working on and have been working on since you were appointed, that should be a huge red flag to you that something is seriously wrong with whatever it is you're doing. They don't do that. I mean, that's just not heard of unless there is some sort of problem with the attorneys in the case. So I'm just going to throw that out there because there's been a lot said that what she did on the 19th blindsided the defense. She didn't blindside anybody. If these guys are as smart as they claim to be, and everybody thinks that they're some of the best defense attorneys in the state of Indiana, well, if they are, they sure didn't act like it in this case. That's all I can say. And she explains to them why. But anyway, let's get into it. So the proceedings started. The attorney Nicholas McClellan, Judge, I wanted to do some introductions. I finally got approval from our counsel to hire a paid attorney to help me. So the court, okay. Mr. McClelland, small town local government. So this is Jim Luttrell. He's a retired prosecutor from Grant County. He's decided or agreed to come on board. Stopping right there. So he has hired a paid attorney to help him. So he had to get help, or excuse me, he had to get the city council for Delphi or for Carroll County, to approve this paid attorney and to help him with this case. So we finally know that somebody's going to be helping him besides the couple of people that work in the office. And the court says, okay. And she says, okay, have a seat. Mr. McClelland, he signed the oath to my office. The court, okay. And every time I say the court, I'm speaking for Judge Gull. Mr. McClelland, and all that, I'm going to handle a written appearance. Attorney James Luttrell, nice to meet you, Judge. The court, nice to meet you, Jim. Mr. McClelland, next week. The court, okay. Mr. McClelland, or maybe tomorrow if I have time, Judge, if I get it done. Okay. Mr. McClelland, but he will be entered in and we're trying to get him up to speed. The court, okay, well, good. Attorney Bradley Rosie, well, I'm the one that kind of asked to huddle up. So if you want me to lead or if you want to say some things, I'm okay with whatever approach you want to take here. The court, go ahead. Mr. Rosie, well, I think the court, Jody's got our portable FTR going just so that Mr. Rosie, oh, okay, that's fine. Got a record. Mr. Rosie, obviously I'm happy to hear that the court's going to make some decisions on the pending pleadings today. The court, Mr. Rosie, I assume Andy feels the same way. It's time to get some closure, if you will, with regard to those items so that we can move forward. It's probably obvious that the tension from our side is coming, from the words disqualification that were murmured in the phone conference that we had a couple weeks ago. I'm assuming you understand how that kind of raises the intensity level of the circumstances. And I guess if I have a concern today, it's that, we're going to go out on the kind of in the public, so to speak, in the courtroom on the record and have a discussion about an ongoing investigation. And that's what I kind of gathered from the email. I think you invited Nick to talk about that if he wanted to. The court. Mr. Rosie. And it makes me a little uncomfortable because I don't know. First of all, there are no pleadings that are pending whether they're motions to disqualify or contempt citations or whatever they might be, that really frame any of the issues. And I have no problem. I mean, I don't have any problems talking about this stuff privately on the record in in an ex parte type confidential hearing. I just think it's difficult to expect that there will be any kind of structure to the idea of, hey, there's an ongoing investigation and just tell us what's going on. And I don't know that it has any relevance to that. We are really trying to accomplish what we are really trying to accomplish today. And I also don't know why Nick would want to talk about an ongoing investigation in public, knowing that in itself could be a little damaging to their circumstances. And so we are lawyers. We're used to having issues framed. We're used to having an opportunity to prepare. And I don't have anything to hide, and I know he doesn't have anything to hide. You've maybe gathered that we've cooperated. We ran into the state police posts, our respective posts, if you will, and I had somebody advise me of my rights, and I waived those, and I gave a formal statement. He did the same. And I'm not sure that we're going to benefit or that this will be productive to just open this floor, this. And that's my biggest concern today. The court. Attorney Andrew Baldwin. I'm more of the due process side. I'm not really sure what will happen, but I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and I would like the opportunity to know what's going to happen and prepare, for they are claiming or whatever before it happens. And I don't want to say ambushed, but it's hard to know for me what to do when I don't know what's happening. There's not a pleading we can respond to, things like that. So, you had indicated that, when Nick said, I don't know if he said that word disqualification, but the court, oh, he did. Mr. Baldwin, was it that word? Mr. Baldwin, okay, I didn't know if he just said it in a more generic way. The court, Mr. Baldwin, and your response was, I'm leaning in that direction or something along those lines. The court, Mr. Baldwin. And so that's, a cause of concern. I mean, we're still wanting to try this case in January, and I'm willing to, we have made changes at my office that will prevent this from ever happening again, and we can take directives from the court. We can, we're looking down every single thing on Delphi. It's in a dedicated room. I'm sorry, locking every single thing down on Delphi. It's in a dedicated room. We put locks on our conference room or the war room where this guy my friend went in and did this without my knowledge. And no document, whether it's benign or something super, like a crime scene photo, is ever going to be left alone for a single solitary second ever again. So, I'm hoping that can be something that the court, can say, all right, that's fine. And then let's go on with the trial, but I'll shut up now. The court, anything, Nick? Mr. McClellan, Judge, I guess my plan today was give the court a summary of the investigation. I've got witnesses here and exhibits to present that go towards the investigation. They're talking about the investigation into the leak of the crime scene photos. That's what I'm prefacing so you guys understand what investigation they're speaking about. I'm more than happy to hand those over to the defense. I know it may harm the investigation, but I think it would be important that the court hear these things. I guess the heart of it in audible investigation, I think it's important. I think the importance of you hearing it is outweighed by that. And so I have these things. I'm concerned that the leak is not just a one-time leak. The evidence that we have shows it is an ongoing leak. However, it's being done. and it's just what's next. I have an issue. What's next? I mean, I spent the past 17 days investigating this night and day when I should have been focusing on preparing for trial. And when I say night and day, I mean phone calls at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., night and day, or excuse me, 3:30 a.m., night and day. And so that's where I'm at, Judge. Again, I'm an officer of the court. I'm reporting to the court what I know. And that's kind of where I see my role. He is an officer of the court, and so are the defense attorneys. And for him to be focused on this investigation of the leak, I don't see that as being odd in any way, shape, or form. As the prosecutor, he would want to know who is leaking this stuff that's trying to hurt his case. And especially when there is a gag order in place. The court, okay, Mr. Rosie, you know this is starting to scream due process to me. I haven't seen any of these exhibits, and I don't know really, frankly. I don't know anything about any of this. And I'm not distancing myself from Mr. Baldwin. I'm just saying I have no connection with any of these people, okay? And the idea that somehow the prosecutor is going to get to roll out a bunch of statements and exhibits and, testimony without us having any forewarning or any idea, any way of scrutinizing that seems a little outside the boundaries of due process to me. Plus, again, I get back to what is the relevance to what is going on in this case. Are we going to use an open courtroom to air an ancillary matter? It's not really connected in any way at this point to the proceedings that are going on, whether it's the Frank's issue or anything of that nature. And I will tell you this, and I'm prepared to show the court this. I would rather do it in private. This problem has been a problem from the very beginning. I have 10 pages of a deposition transcript in this file from my deposition, our deposition that I took of Trooper Holman in this case. And in that deposition, he talks openly about how there were crime scene links from the very beginning. And I believe he means leaks here. Unequivocal crime scene leaks. And that as soon as the crime occurred, they were investigating information that had been released because there were lay people that were part of the search party. And the implication is, and I've got the transcript, is that those people that found those girls started to essentially disseminate or distribute information. And law enforcement essentially tried to catch up with them, but it was really too late, as you might expect. Once it gets in the hands of the public, it's too late. So he told us that, almost volunteered that information to me in the deposition. The second concern I have is that I think I shared with the court, just as an example, a week or two ago, somebody sends me a court TV, bit. And I can assure you, I've never watched one of those bits on this case. I don't even know if I've ever really watched court TV. Maybe back when Simpson was ongoing, I don't know. And in that bit, Barbara McDonald is talking. 2 different occasions, she mentioned how she's getting information from investigators on the ground that were at the crime scene. Now, we can all draw implications about that, but most importantly, it was corroborated by the fact that she was holding in her hand documents that I know to be directly related to the Purdue report. I mean, I saw the pictures. I know where those came from. And if the point here is I'm going to say this maybe a little loosely, but forgive me. I don't care. I don't care that all this stuff is out there because it's been out there for 5 or 6 years. I don't have time. He doesn't have time. He doesn't have time to sit and try to marshal all of this stuff while this case is ongoing because there's no end to it. But the point is the court needs to have some context that this is nothing new. I lost sleep over the fact that there's a man who's dead that I don't even know. And frankly, Andy doesn't know, and it's tragic. I don't know what life circumstances he had or what surrounded this. None of that information has been shared with us. But at the end of the day, what's going on out in the cyber world and in the public, as you might expect in a case of this magnitude, that's been publicized for 6 years, was beyond our control before we even got involved. And he's not wrong there in stating that, because we all know what's been going on social media with this case since its inception. Mr. Baldwin, there's even a guy in Florida who says the guy in Texas who leaked all this stuff has received from a disgruntled Carroll County employee a whole file filled with stuff and photos included. And I haven't seen the photos that were leaked. I don't know what they are. If this could be set for a formal hearing in the future where we have a chance to do it the right way, then that's one thing. But to go in there and we don't have any way to counteract anything. If I know what it is, I can, I know what that is, or I don't know what that is. And it's, and in the meantime, I don't know. This is the lowest point of my career right now, because somebody did what they did to me. And that has nothing to do with Mr. Allen, the court. It certainly does not. And this is where I want to stop for a second and say, this is where this becomes more about Andy Baldwin and Brad Rosie than it does Richard Allen. These two defense attorneys were making all of this about them and not about Richard Allen. Their whole talking in this isn't about Richard Allen, in my opinion. Let's continue. Mr. Baldwin, Richard Allen needs to have a counsel there, so I just don't want to go in there and not be able to fight back with evidence that or witnesses that we have to counteract whatever they claim that they have. So the court. Okay, here are my thoughts in no particular order. I don't know how many folks are out there, and I certainly don't wish to air publicly to the world the concerns that I have about this matter. Right there, she tells them that she does not wish to air publicly to the world her concerns that she has with the leaks. Okay? My intent in having this hearing was to go through some of the pleadings that we have not yet decided. So I was going to start with reminding everybody about the decorum order, reminding everybody why we are here and to shut up, etc. There have been reports to my sheriff about disruptive people, and I will remind people, if they are disruptive, they will be removed. And my sheriff is fully prepared to execute arrests if necessary, because I know we've seen in our other hearings, people have been disruptive and hateful. So under the rules, under the canons of judicial conduct, I'm required to advise people within the room that the media is here and that they are filming. They're doing pool coverage. So there's only 2 cameras in the courtroom, and everybody's going to get coverage from those 2 cameras. And then I want to talk about the pleadings. Defendant filed a verified motion for immediate transfer of custody. The state filed its response. The motion, again, has a lot of inaccuracies and some speculation, and it has been refuted ably, I think, by the affidavits that have been submitted by the state, and I'm going to deny the motion. The defendant then filed a motion for broadcasting order. The state filed its response. Your motion's overbroad. It's got a lot of irrelevant verbiage in it, and I'm required to consider individual requests for hearings. So I will, if the media wishes to have an individual request submitted, they know fully well how to do that. And I've provided to counsel all of those requests that I've gotten so far for this hearing. So if you want to file them for a particular hearing, you're certainly welcome to do that, but the media is all over this, and they're not. They know how to do this. Mr. Rosie, yeah, I was just trying to understand. Are you suggesting that you're going to determine that on a case-by-case basis or a hearing-by-hearing basis? The court, hearing by hearing. Mr. Rosie, okay. The court, yeah. Mr. Rosie, all right, okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood what. The court, the state filed its motion for leave of court to subpoena the third-party records. I think that was directed again to DOC, the Department of Corrections. I clearly can't grant that. I'm going to grant the defendant's motion to quash. This is where they subpoenaed the court. They wanted to have Richard Allen's mental health records from the Department of Corrections. She tells them the defendant's motion, she's going to grant the defendant's motion to quash that subpoena. But if you continue to raise his medical and mental health in pleadings, that's fair game then for that to be provided to the state. And that is the law, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just letting you know that. You have also filed, Mr. McClelland, a motion for future pleadings and filings to be sealed prior to being released to the public. I've not gotten a response from the defense. Mr. Rosie, can I speak on that? The court, sure. Mr. Rosie, I think it's important to note that, we had this discussion come up before, and there was basically, we decided, okay, we're done sealing stuff. We're going to make it public. Before we filed that Frank's brief, I had a long conversation with the court reporter, Karen Allen, over in Delphi, because I wasn't sure about Allen or Roller. I always want to call her Karen. Mr. McClelland, Allen. Mr. Rosie, Karen Allen, because I wasn't sure about the mechanics of how all of this stuff was moving from Delphi to your office. And I know that you had set up some kind of a website or something that people could access. And I was under the understanding, in speaking with Miss Allen, I'm not blaming her for anything, but that when we file these things, they were going from them and they were hitting a button. We were filing with Carroll County. They were hitting enter and they were sending it to you. And you were essentially filtering this stuff, or at least you were seeing it before it became public. The court, nope. Mr. Rosie. And so that's why in talking with her, that's the way I understood the mechanics, which I think is what happened to a pleading the other day from what I understand. We filed something and you either put it in a queue. I think anyway, I tried to do some homework on that, and that's what Mr. Baldwin. I was a part of one of those conversations, and that's what she said. The court. So, does that need a hearing? I'm happy to have a hearing on that. I don't have a problem with that. Mr. Rosie, well, I don't really, I guess. I'm just telling you for context. That's what Mr. Baldwin. I mean, could there be a happy medium of if we file it confidentially and then so the judge then gets a chance to review it first? Because that's what we thought was going on anyway. But if that's not what's going on, the court, no, it's being filed confidentially if you mark it as such. Mr. Baldwin, I know. Yeah, I know that now. The court, I had my staff mark the memorandum confidential after it had been filed and disseminated to the public because the actual warrant was in there. And that's covered under a miscellaneous cause number. I'm happy to have a hearing. I'm going to stop for a minute. Here she's trying to tell them, I can have a hearing on this matter if you guys want a hearing. I have no problem with that. And that's not what they're asking. They keep going away from having a hearing on this matter. Mr. Rosie, well, what is your ruling? I guess to make sure I understand, I don't want to fight about something that we don't need to argue about. The court, I haven't ruled on that. Mr. Rosie, okay. The court, you haven't filed a response. And that, Mr. Rosie, yeah. I mean, really? Do they not know how criminal proceedings work? These so-called fantastic attorneys that are supposed to know how this process works, and they haven't even filed their responses? You can't, she's not going to rule on something until she gets a response from the defense. Mr. Rosie, I'm sorry, the court. My question is, do we need a hearing on that, or do you wish to file a response? The Faxx motion clearly needs a ruling, and I'm working on that. The motion and exhibits are 1,500 pages, and there are hours, and hours of interviews that have been made available that my IT staff has just now cleaned to make sure that they're okay. We already talked about that. And then, I mean, that brings us to my concerns that I had that I raised with all of you on our phone call. And I write everything out. And this is what I intend to say in open court. After she made the phone call on the 12th of October to these attorneys, she sat down and wrote down what her concerns were that she had raised with them on the phone call. She wrote it all out. And this is what she decided she would say in open court. There is nothing wrong with this. There is nothing wrong with her doing this. This is exactly what a good judge should do. I have concerns regarding the defense team and the totality of the circumstances surrounding your representation of Mr. Allen. I'm going to say it again. I have concerns regarding the defense team and the totality of the circumstances surrounding your representation of Mr. Allen. This is not about one thing, you guys. This is not just about the leak of the crime scene photos. This is the totality of everything since they were appointed. Candidly, my concerns began at our hearing on November 22nd of last year. Mr. McClellan filed a motion for a gag order, and we were in chambers, and you assured me, gentlemen, we don't want the media in our lives. We will not try this case in the media. And less than 2 weeks later, you issued an undated press release that contained an awful lot of information that would not normally be revealed. Gonna stop there. We don't want the media in our lives. We will not try this case in the media. That is what Andrew Baldwin, Brad Rosie, and Nick McClellan told the court on November 22nd. Because Nick McClellan was concerned about what was happening with these attorneys in the very beginning, which is why he filed the motion for the gag order. And as soon as the gag order was asked for, less than 2 weeks later, after telling the court that they weren't going to try their case in the media, they issued an undated press release. And we remember what that press release was about. I'm going to continue. I don't know. I think you knew or should have known those were potentially violative of Rule 3.6 of the Rules of Professional Responsibility. But it is that press release that prompted me to issue the order December 2nd, granting the gag order until further hearing. She cites Rules 3.6 of the Rules of Professional Responsibility. I don't know. I think you knew or should have known those were potentially violative of Rule 3.6. And for these attorneys that are supposed to be some of the best attorneys in Indiana, You doggone right they knew what the rules of professional responsibility were. I continue. April 18th of this year, you filed a notice of tort claim against the Department of Correction. You stated in that notice that it was your intent to pursue our client's claims against you. The full amount of damages sought on behalf of my client is unknown. I don't know how you could do that in representing Mr. Allen in a criminal matter and then launch off into a civil matter. I think that's inappropriate. May of this year, we were notified by the state of the Brandon Woodhouse arrest and the subsequent discovery of your work product. And I think it was an outline that you created for yourselves with the discovery. It was pretty detailed. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but that apparently happened in December of last year. And that was not revealed to anybody, not shared with the court. It wasn't shared with you, although apparently you guys knew about what was going on. Mr. Baldwin, he didn't know. The court, you knew. Mr. Baldwin, I did know. The court. So then Mr. Woodhouse gets arrested, and here we are. Grossly negligent to email that to the wrong Brad. Your pleadings on the safekeeping order contain inaccuracies and falsehoods. That was proven in the hearing we conducted in June. The evidence presented by the state clearly demonstrated the falsity of your claims, and that was very troubling to me. So here she's calling out the fact that they actually argued falsehoods and that they had claims that were falsified, and that troubled her, as it should. And then the last couple of weeks that we have been dealing with, the state provided you discovery. That has been severely compromised. We now have an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to call it a criminal investigation. I don't know what it is, but it's clearly being investigated by the state of Indiana. I'm going to stop right there. The state of Indiana announced that they are conducting an investigation into the leaks of these crime scene photos and who's culpable and who's not in the dissemination of them. Is there going to be criminal charges? It's too early to tell. It's still being investigated. Could there be contempt of court charges? Most definitely. Because what happened here compromised this case, and it compromised Richard Allen. And nobody's willing to talk about that, not even his own attorneys. His own attorneys aren't even talking about how this compromised him getting a fair trial. Everyone involved has sought counsel, including you, Mr. Baldwin. You have had an attorney enter a written appearance this morning. I don't want to get into the investigation candidly. You are the constitutional authority for the state of Indiana. If you choose to pursue it, that is up to you. If you choose to abandon it, that is clearly up to you. I'm glad to hear that you have cooperated. But Mr. Baldwin's attorney has clearly shared. I don't know if you've seen his pleading. Mr. McClelland, I saw it, Judge. Yes, I got it kind of late. He's emailed us and then the court. Okay. Mr. McClelland, I saw that was filed on the way here. The court. Well, yeah, so he's clearly shared it in his pleading, down to the fact that an individual has committed suicide. He included the fact that you left materials all over a conference room table accessible to anyone. And this is a friend of yours who apparently you have consulted with on this case. So again, it's up to you if you wish to pursue that. I'm looking at the totality of the circumstances. When I look at a suppression, the case law requires me to look at the totality of the circumstances. And that's what I'm doing. And it pains me to say this, but the totality of these circumstances demonstrates gross negligence and incompetence on the part of the defense team. I'm unsatisfied with your representation of Mr. Allen, and I'm gravely concerned about his rights to have competent, non-negligent representation. He currently doesn't have the right now because what you have demonstrated is negligence and incompetence. Now I'm sharing my thoughts with you privately. I don't want to say this in open court. I would encourage you to talk privately about what you wish to do. I don't want this coming out. It is not where we need to be with this case, but I will. But you don't know that. You have just now been made aware of my concerns and where I'm landing. So, if you wish to have a private conversation, I would encourage you to do that. I don't believe your client is here yet. No, he's not. Clearly, you'll need to speak with him as well. So, Mr. Baldwin, I'm not good at reading between the lines. The court. You're a lawyer. That's what you do for a living. I agree with her. Mr. Baldwin, when you say have a private conversation, are you talking the four of us or the court? I'm talking about you. I am not accusing the state of gross incompetence and negligence. I'm finding gross incompetence and negligence with you. Mr. Baldwin, so Mr. Rosie, forgive me, go ahead. Mr. Baldwin, no, Mr. Rosie. I mean, obviously reading the tea leaves here, what you're giving us a chance to do is bow out gracefully, if you will, if that's the right term. Is there a scenario where the court would accept if I stayed in the case? I mean, I'm a team player, and I'm not the kind of guy that just bails out on somebody just for the sake of doing it. But I think it's obvious that, he can speak it differently, but I'm not as concerned, but I'm not as connected to some of you, this most recent circumstances as he is. Mr. Allen is in a situation where he's going to have counsel that's, if he has new counsel, it's going to take them a year to get up to speed with the depth of information that continues to come in. And so I think that his Sixth Amendment right matters. And, I'm probably the one that can at least move this thing forward with some sense of judicial economy. I don't like it, and that's not what I intended to do when I came in here today, but that would be kind of a worst case scenario on your side, on our side, I guess. And so is that an option that the court would entertain? The court, no. Mr. Rosie, so basically what you're saying is you guys either quit on your own accord or you make me fire you. That's what the court. No, I'm saying to you that this is what I plan to say in court on the record when we convene at 2:00. Well, so is the culmination of that you're removing us from the case? The court, I will, based on what I've just shared with you. Mr. Rosie, okay, well, I just want to make sure we're the court, and I'm just giving you the opportunity to have a conversation, how do you want that to go? I don't want to do this. But I will if I have to. Mr. Baldwin, should we bow out gracefully, as Brad says? How would we even have a hearing? How would that go? Because if we're out of the case, then, Mr. Rosie, then you're going to go ahead and rule on a bunch of stuff without lawyers in the room? That's the court. No, I would not do that. If you decide that your best course of action is to file a motion to withdraw, you can do that today. And I'll send Mr. Allen back to the DOC after you've had a chance to speak with him. Mr. Baldwin, Would that happen before the hearing or after the hearing? That's the court. Your motion to withdraw would happen before the hearing. Mr. Baldwin, okay, that's what I wanted. Yeah. The court, yeah, because he has rights, and I don't want those rights compromised by having a hearing with him not having counsel. I assume if you choose to withdraw, that his financial situation hasn't changed and he would still be entitled to court-appointed counsel. I can't imagine that he has the ability at this point to hire counsel. I don't know. Mr. Baldwin, Brad and I need to go talk. The court, yes, you do. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. McClellan, yep, thank you, Judge. And they go off the record. They come back on the record. The court, thank you, Jody. Court reporter, you're welcome. The court, okay, yes. Mr. Rosie, all right. So obviously we're kind of trying to figure out how to address this issue with very short notice and very little notice. The first thing we did is really talk to the client. I'm going to stop right there. This assertion by this defense attorney that they're trying to figure this all out because they had very little notice, very short notice. They were given notice a week before this when they were told to stop working the case. Both of these seasoned attorneys knew what was coming. They knew that there was a chance that they could be removed from this case. Why do you think Andrew Baldwin came to court with an attorney? God, people, wake up. The court, Mr. Rosie, our client is a big part of this, the biggest part of this. Do you like how he said that, you guys? Our client is a big part of this. Are you kidding me, Brad Rosie? Your client is the only part of this that matters. You don't matter, nor does Andrew Baldwin. The person you're representing should matter, and they are the biggest part of this. He has communicated to us that he does not want us to withdraw from the case. I don't think that Richard Allen understands the gravity of what's going on here with these attorneys. I just don't. He wants us to continue with his representation. He understands, I think, that he's not the gatekeeper or he doesn't have the authority to really force the court to do that, but he would like to say that on the record. We asked him if that's what he wanted to do. We suggested maybe he would do it in chambers. It seems a little bit of the difficult position to put a man who's accused but not been found guilty, put him in a courtroom and have him, have to speak in this circumstance with 15 minutes notice. Andy and I'm going to speak for myself. I'll let him speak for himself. I'm going to file a motion to withdraw. So that was Brad Rosie telling her he was going to file a motion to withdraw. He told the court in no uncertain terms he was going to file a motion to withdraw. I don't want to do it, but I don't think that I have a choice at this point. The options I've been given without any notice by the court really are either I withdraw or I'm going to be publicly shamed, and that's the way I see this. And I think that the public shaming is there's not only a professional element to that, I think there's a personal aspect to that too. But when the media is teed up like this, and we show up here today with the court having told us that we're going to conduct some business that somehow bleeds over into a forced resignation or whatever you want to, however you characterize this, that I don't feel like I have any other choice professionally. I have a life beyond this courtroom and beyond this case, and I have a family too, and I have a law practice. Bingo. But I think we've been given some notice of what we were actually, if this would have been framed in a pleading format or some formal disciplinary claim, which there's a process for that in our business, then we could have come in here today with an opportunity to refute some of those things that you clearly had, thought through and prepared before we got here. Really? You didn't know how she felt about the fact of all the things that she pointed to that you've been negligent on and irresponsible? You couldn't have argued those that day? Are you kidding me? Give me a break. We didn't have that opportunity. And it's the idea that I'm going to have to go in here in an open courtroom and essentially defend myself against claims that I don't agree with without any notice and without any opportunity, I think is unfair. But I also have some common sense, and me going in there and standing my ground because my client wants me to is just going to make things worse for him. And so I'm going to withdraw my appearance. I'm going to walk out of here. I'm going to go down to my car. I'm going to call my staff and have them prepare a motion, and I'm going to withdraw my appearance. But I'm doing it because I don't think I have any other choice professionally, not because I want to, and not because my client wants me to. And I respect the court has an opinion, but we're professionals and we can disagree. The court, of course. Mr. Rosie, and I'm extremely, I'd say frustrated, probably a soft word, with the idea that we showed up today without any real opportunity to prepare for any of this. And I just think it's improper. And that's where I am. And that's my position. I want to stop there for a second and just say, I call bullshit on that, Mr. Rosie. You guys knew what you were facing. Andrew Baldwin got an attorney because he knew what he was facing. And you as a defense team, this isn't just about the leaks that Andrew Baldwin's friend did. This is about everything. This is about going around the gag order. This is about, telling the court that you're not going to try your case in the court of public opinion through the media, and you file a 138-page Faxx motion that could have been done in 3 pages. Get real. Stop lying to the court is what I'd like to say. The court, we will pick up. Well, I think we talked about when you asked for a disqualification, and I indicated on our phone conversation, I'm inclined to do that. She told them back on October 12th, when she spoke to them and told them to stop working this case, that she was looking at disqualification. Mr. Rosie, it was a phone conversation that was not on the record, and then some follow-up emails. The court, true. Mr. Rosie, there's an informality to that. The court, true. Mr. Rosie, and you also said that you hadn't even done any research, and you hadn't, had time to talk to your senior judge and all those other things, and he hasn't filed a pleading with the court either. The court, no, I'm doing this on my motion. Mr. Rosie, and I'm a lawyer who practices in lots of courtrooms, and I've been through some disqualification actions. In 20 years, I've never had a disciplinary complaint in my life that's been confirmed, if you will. But I've seen lawyers disqualified, and there is a process for that, and it's not this. With all due respect, where you walk into somebody's office, a judge's office, and they read a prepared statement to you, and essentially that statement is an indictment on my professional, activities. And then you're handed essentially a sheet of paper with two options. And one of them is, I'm going to go out here and shame you, or you can quit. You can understand how upset that would make any lawyer. And I don't think it's the right way to handle this from a due process standpoint. So I have no choice but to, withdraw my appearance, because I'm not going to go in there and take a public shaming without having any notice of it. That's where I am with it. This has nothing to do with their client. This has to do with them not wanting to be publicly shamed for what they have done and allowed to have happened in court. She didn't have to have these men in her chambers that day. This judge could have very well called them into that courtroom, had the hearing, and dropped all of this right in their laps, just like she said she was going to do. She gave them a professional courtesy by calling them into chambers and asking them, what did they want to do? They needed to have a discussion between themselves and with their client to come up with what they wanted to do, because this is how she saw it. This wasn't one instance. This wasn't two instances. This wasn't even three instances. This was 4 instances of negligence in the activities of this criminal defense team. It's crazy, you guys. Mr. Baldwin, I'm the same, withdrawing. I mirror what he said. I mean, I do appreciate giving us the advance notice. He at least thanks her for that. Rosie, not so much. If there is some appreciation for that, I do appreciate that. But beyond that, I wanted to take this, and finish it out. He's talking about the case. I'm stunned. I don't know what to say. So I'll just say I'm moving to withdraw orally. The court. Okay. Mr. Rosie, is the court going to generate some further instructions on what to do with all of this discovery that we have and the court? I already have. Mr. Rosie, all of this information and the court. There's an order. I granted the state's protective order on discovery. Mr. Rosie, no, I'm talking about my possession of all of this information. Am I to take it out to the trash can? Am I supposed to wait for another attorney? Is the court going to give us some guidance on how to move all of this information from one law office to the other? The court. I did. Mr. Rosie, to another? The court. When I granted the state's protective order, I think it's the last paragraph of the protective order. It directs you to return it all to the state of Indiana. All the copies, all of the whatever you gave them, they are required under the order to return to you. Mr. Rosie, at the conclusion of the case, the court, or your representation. Mr. Rosie, I know what order you're talking about. I read the order before I came today. So why is he even asking this? If he read the protective order and he knows, why is he even bringing this up? Are you kidding? The court. Okay. Mr. Rosie, so we're supposed to just take everything back and give it to the state and then just retain our work product until somebody asks us for it. The court. Your work product is your work product. I mean, I would hope that you would share with the successor counsel. I would hope that you would help successor counsel just with the transfer of all the information, because that's in your client's best interest to do that. But that's entirely up to you. That's your work product that you have developed. I mean, clearly the discovery is required to go back to the state. Mr. Rosie, okay, thank you. What do you want to do with Mr. Allen? The court, I can transport him back to the Department of Corrections. Mr. Rosie, do you want to make a record with his, I think it's appropriate that the court let him speak into the record, his thoughts, unless the court just accepts that as notice that those are his opinions. The court, well, you wouldn't lie to me about that. Are you so sure? Mr. Rosie, I would not lie to you about anything. Although it was proven in July or in June that there were falsifications made in their motions, and that was proven. Mr. Rosie, or I'm sorry, the court. So of course that's your representation that's what he would say if he were brought in here. I can imagine the DOC being comfortable. I can't imagine the Department of Corrections being comfortable bringing him into my office. I would not be comfortable having him in my office. Mr. Rosie, would the court also be inclined to mark as an exhibit the prepared statement so that it's part of the record? The court, I have the record rolling. Mr. Rosie, okay. The court, yes. Mr. Baldwin, so we're going to leave, I guess. And you're going to, how is this? You're just going to get up on the bench and say, the court, I will just indicate to Mr. McClellan Mr. McClellan's going to be in there with Mr. Luttrell. And I'll just say that we've had a turn of events and the defense counsel is withdrawing. And that's all I'm going to say. Mr. Baldwin, can you wait for us to get out of here? Isn't that hilarious? Let us get out of here. We don't want the reporters to bombard us. the court, of course. And we can have you, I don't know where you're parked at. We have a hearing set for October 31st that I'd like to keep as trial setting an appointment of new counsel. And if you can get things together by that date to return to Mr. McClelland, that would be good. Otherwise, if with your permission, I will give successor counsel your contact information. Mr. Baldwin, okay. Mr. Rosie, okay. The court, where are you parked? Mr. Rosie, nice to meet you. Sorry to Mr. Luttrell, inaudible. Mr. Baldwin, just right out there in front of the building. I mean, there's a parking lot. There's a little parking lot right in front of the building. I don't know what the court. Everybody's in the courtroom, so I don't think that there's anybody out in the hallways. Mr. Rosie, I'm going to get my staff member. I'm going to have her. I don't need any, rendezvous at some point and try to get the stuff back. Mr. McClelland, okay, that's fine. Between Steve and I and Sarah and you, Mr. Rosie, okay. Mr. McClelland, we will get it all. Mr. Rosie, that's fine. Mr. McClelland, done. That's either Sarah. Mr. Rosie, thank you. The court, thank you. This concludes the proceedings had in camera on October 19th, 2023 in this cause. And I believe, hey, Shadowbox, welcome. Hey, Brian, how are you? That Faxx motion, John, was an absolute press release. They basically argued their entire case of their defense of Richard Allen in that Faxx motion. It was a joke. And she was ticked off about that. I'm sure she was. Because the attorneys and the judges that I've spoken to regarding this matter said that Faxx motion could have been in a 3-page at most document, bullet pointed. And I like this. How could Baldwin not know how to file a confidential manner? Is this something he should have known? Absolutely. Absolutely. These guys are supposed to be the top of cream of the crop when it comes to defense attorneys in the state of Indiana. They're death penalty qualified. And yet, at every turn, they try to act like they don't know. And they, even listening to their ramblings to her in that and how they were speaking to her, it didn't sound professional to me. It was like ramblings of people that just didn't know what to say. It's like being caught with your hand in the cookie jar. That's kind of how I felt about it. 63 Clocks, you are so right. She was very clear. She was very specific, and she backs it up. She can't let these things stand and just go on the way they're going. She saw the writing on the wall. And where they were headed with this case, if she allowed it to continue. And the last thing with the leak of the crime scene photos, in my opinion, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Judge Gulls said, enough. I'm done. I've talked to these guys, I've given them every opportunity to get in line and follow the code of conduct for professionalism. I mean, these guys act like they don't even know what professionalism is. And that's just my opinion. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens next week with the Supreme Court. But I honestly do not see the Supreme Court removing her. I also don't see the Supreme Court putting them back on this case. And again, go back to what I was saying a week or 2 weeks ago when I was talking on my live stream about the fact that these guys were all about, this case is going to make us big. This case is going to put us on the map, because these are the kinds of cases that can make or break careers. We've talked about that. Prosecutors as well as defense attorneys. These kinds of high profile cases can make or break careers. They knew that. They knew that if they got booted off of this case and removed, it was going to hurt their private practice. Because who's going to go to an attorney that has been professionally removed off of a case this high profile when you just need them to represent you because of DUI or some other felony, breaking and entering or whatever? I mean, basically, that's where this boils down to me. And that's why I feel like this is more about them than it is about Richard Allen. They would try to sidestep and go back to him and say how it was about him and his Sixth Amendment. But no, not really. They were all about themselves and how this was going to look on them, how she was going to publicly shame them. Fran Gull didn't do these things. She didn't cause any of this. She didn't do any of this. They did. I mean, just like she called them out, you should know the rules. You've been practicing collectively for 50 years. Something like that. And if that's the case, and these guys have been collectively practicing law that long, you cannot tell me that they don't know the rules. They do know the rules. They were trying to sidestep the court at every turn in this case. And that's why they're so adamant that they were ready to go to trial in January. Because they had already created reasonable doubt in the minds of the public. Look what happened with the Faxx motion. My God, everybody went off the deep end thinking that the Odinists are out there and they're sacrificing teenage girls. Really? If you believe that stuff, then you belong down there in Texas with the people that were sitting outside for days and days waiting for JFK Jr. to come back. Because I'm serious. Odinists, people who practice Odinism, don't do human sacrifice. Go look it up. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And they're talking about this one particular witness that they have that says that he admitted to this to his sister. This man has an IQ of a 7-year-old. It's very possible he believes that. I mean, it just angers me, you guys, because it's not good reporting. It's not reporting the facts. It's not trying to look at the case objectively. You have a judge for a reason. As I told you all before, she's there to make sure that everything is adhered to by the letter of the law and to ensure that the person that has been accused is getting a fair trial. She has to make sure that the state is abiding by the proof beyond a reasonable doubt. She has to make sure of all those things. That's what her job is. And for her to overlook this stuff that's been happening would make her incompetent, would make her look like she's not doing her job. And as you can see from her resume, that's not going to happen because that's not what she's about. Now, is there a chance they will remove her? Of course there is. I don't believe they will. But if they do remove her and get another judge, see, what I tried to tell you guys before, where would our court systems in this country be if at every turn you could request the judge be thrown off of a case? You just can't just have any reason to do that. And I think it's hilarious that they think they were bullied. Would they have thought they were bullied if she wasn't female? Would these two attorneys be acting differently if that had been a male that called them into there and wanted to tell them about all the things that they've been doing wrong in this case? It's a question that needs to be asked. She's a strong woman, a very strong woman, and they're all lawyers. They all understand what the code of conduct is. And I agree with you, 63 Clocks. More than anything, Abby and Libby deserve better. Richard Allen deserves better, for God's sakes. And he may not understand how these two attorneys have hurt him. Hey, Angela, thank you so much. I absolutely had to, because if you don't call it out as you see it, I just don't think we're doing the case justice. So I feel that I owed it to my subscribers. I owe it to the people who follow me to make sure that I stay true to what is going on here. And I just needed to say that. You are going to find, I heard something the other day when I was watching some live streams of Court TV, and some people, they had some professionals and stuff on, they were talking. But Law and Crime Network, I really try to follow that YouTube channel a lot because I really like them, and they're very professional, and they're not as, what do I want to say? Sometimes I have issues with Court TV, I guess I should say. But Law and Crime had somebody on too, and they were talking about the fact that, when you have guests on, whether it be prosecutors or former prosecutors or defense attorneys, and they ask the questions of, yeah, John, Hollywood, do you think that the person that they're talking about in the case is innocent or innocent or guilty? Are they looking guilty? It's very, very rare that you're going to get defense attorneys to talk about a case and talk about that person's guilt. Who, again, here they are on television and they're defense attorneys. Who's going to hire a defense attorney when they're going on national television and talking about someone's guilt? You don't want defense attorneys representing you if they think you're guilty. You want them to fight for your innocence, to fight to prove your innocence. Well, they really don't have to prove it, but you know what I mean. To fight the best that they can to put up a good defense of why you didn't do whatever it is you're being accused of. And I thought that was an excellent comment that was made by the host about defense attorneys. And it's the same with prosecutors. I don't think you're going to see prosecutors necessarily talk about people being innocent. That's why I have such a problem with Nancy Grace. She's a former prosecutor, and everybody is guilty to her. I mean, if you're arrested, you're guilty. You are absolutely guilty, and the book should be thrown at you. And she fails to remember the U.S. Constitution, that we're all innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, not on your TV show, Nancy, with half of the evidence out there, because you don't have the full evidence in front of you. And it's the same with the Delphi case. I've been screaming it for nearly 7 years now, that we don't know everything that has gone on in this case. We don't have all of the evidence. We don't know all the evidence that they have against Richard Allen. We can't come to a really good conclusion without all of the evidence. With the things that we do know, does it look like he's guilty? Yes, in my opinion, it looks like he is definitely bridge guy, and that he's guilty of what they have charged him with. And that's the way I see it. That doesn't mean that something might not happen during the trial that might change my opinion of that, because I haven't heard all of the evidence. I'm going only on what we've been told so far. And I like to think that I have an open mind, and that I keep things open, and keep my box not. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. And hey, Miranda, so glad that you did, Miranda. Thank you so much. I hope you have a blessed week and a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving that's here in the States, and that you get to spend it with people that you love. My favorite time of year is the holidays, because I get to see my family and my dear friends. And to me, there's nothing better than just having that time with them. Losing that, once you start losing loved ones out of your life because they've passed away and you can no longer get that back, it is really, really hard to not feel the importance of being together. And I just do. But yeah, today was Grandparents' Day at my youngest grandson's school. And so got to go spend Grandparents' Day with him this morning. We had breakfast together there. And it is just so fun to see him light up, and and get to spend time with him. And a year ago, I didn't get to go because I physically couldn't maneuver the stairs at the school that he was at for preschool, because there was a lot of stairs and I couldn't do them. And physically now I am so much healthier and so much better. So I was able to do just fine today. And that really made me happy. But yeah, getting back to the case, and, obviously people are wanting this, do I wish the case would have gone forward in January? Absolutely. I want to see this case done and over with. I mean, I want to see the right person arrested, the right person convicted, and I want to see what they have. I want to know, just like everybody else, what they have on this guy, what brought them to the conclusion that they have. And I want to see them dispel all these rumors that are out there about everything that goes on in this case, about the other players, all of it. Now, is it possible that somebody else was involved in this case with Richard Allen? Absolutely, it's possible. Are they able to prove their case? I think if they were able to prove that, they would have arrested somebody. It's been a year since he was arrested. Um, so one of the things that we have to remember in cases, no matter what case it is that we're covering, there are times when they don't have enough evidence to charge someone. Does that mean that they close the book and they close the case? No. Look at the Kristen Smart case. It took 26 years, 26 years for them to charge her murder. And they had him on the radar the first weekend after she disappeared. So just because they may not have charged somebody or they may not have enough evidence to charge somebody doesn't mean that they're not working to try to get evidence or find evidence or whatever. I firmly believe that the detectives that are working this case and have worked this case are diligent in looking for anyone and everyone that may be part of it. And I am anxious to find out what all of the tentacles are that have been alluded to by state police that link this case. So I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully we'll know. I mean, she has set the case for trial in October of next year. As fast as time is moving right now, I'm here to tell you that uh you're so welcome, 63 clocks. You're so welcome. Um, I the way, like I said, the way time is moving, I think it'll be here before we know it. But it's like I told you guys last week, we are going to have a ton of motions in this case. And we can't lose it every time there is one. We have to remain calm and watch the process. Trust the process. We have to trust the process. You know, is our judicial system perfect? No, it's not. It's far from perfect, but it's one of the best judicial systems in the world, if not the best in the world. So, and it is a process. And we just have to wait and see what happens. I know, I hear it depends on which political views people have on how they feel about the state of Indiana and how the state of Indiana handles cases and how they adjudicate cases and all of that. But, and the bottom line is that not everybody who puts on a uniform for law enforcement is corrupt. Not everybody who walks into a courtroom with the attorney JD distinctions behind their name does not make them corrupt. That's just not the way it works. Are there bad apples? There's bad apples in every profession. There's bad apples everywhere. But, you know, Abby and Libby deserve better. They deserve better from us. They deserve better from us, from the people who are covering their cases. Or their case, sorry. I recently, over the weekend, had something happen regarding around this case, and I really wasn't going to talk about it, but I absolutely have to because it affected me so much. But, and I saved it for the end to do. So those who have to, you know, those who watch me on replay or whatever will get to see it. But for those of you that are still here with me, someone that I trusted, absolutely trusted in this case, surrounding this case, went on a live stream with a bad actor. They did a bad they did something so questionable in my mind that I just can't wrap my head around it. I just can't. I'm not gonna state who this is because that's not what I'm about. But I just wanted to say that when you are online and you are here, whether it be as a follower, a member, or whatever, and I've come to know you over time, I only know you in a very superficial way. I don't really know you. And even though I had a relationship with this person and spoke to them often for over 2 years and thought I knew this person, I didn't know this person because I would have never, ever thought that they would have sided with a bad actor. And they did, especially what's transpired in the last 4 or 5 months regarding the case, because this bad actor is one of the reason all the leaks are happening in this case, and one of the reasons that all of the, um crazy is happening in this case, with no regard for the family at all. This person has absolute no regard. This bad actor has no regard for the family. And I'm tired of it, you guys. I'm tired of people being given airwaves to destroy and to hurt and to cause more pain, especially to the family. Because this is, like I've said before, this is not a joke. This is not fiction. This is real, true life. And these girls have people who love them, people who will desperately miss them forever. This is real life to them. This isn't, I can turn off my computer, walk away, and pretend like it's not happening. That's not what happens for Becky. That's not what happens for Mike or Anna or Carrie or Derek or Kelsey. This stuff is forever. And people who choose to cover true crime needs to remember that, because it isn't about clicks. It's not about views. It's not about how much income you're making on YouTube every month. It's about doing the right thing and being able to look at yourself in the mirror the next day. That's what it's about. And I've heard people say, "Oh, Kristen, you're so holier than thou." If I couldn't look at myself, I would stop doing this. Because I guarantee you it isn't about views and clicks for me at all. And I definitely want people to continue talking about cases. I want people to continue bringing cases to me, um, and all of that. But I also want people to have some sort of ethic when it comes to not only the true crime, that content that's being made, but the true content that's being enjoyed, if that's a correct word to use. Because it's not just a genre for entertainment. This, I can't even imagine people considering it entertainment when it comes to being a family member. to hear that they're entertained by listening to the story of their deceased loved ones, especially when it's children. And for people to not be outraged that Abby and Libby's crime scene photos were released and heading around the internet, and all of these bad actors who wanted to look at them and talk about them and draw pictures about them and do all the things that they do. Are you kidding me? Stop and think about it if it was your daughter or granddaughter or sister or whatever. How would you feel? So, this is an important week in the United States. We celebrate Thanksgiving on Thursday. There's a lot of things to be thankful for. I know that there's a lot of terrible things going on in our world right now, and it's really hard sometimes to see those things. But I will tell everyone this. As we approach Christmas and we approach the holiday time and Hanukkah and some of the other holidays, can you please try and pay it forward to someone? Oh, John, I am so, so sorry. I will definitely pray for your dog. I am so, so sorry. I know I went through that with my Max and it was terrible. Oh, John, I'm so sorry to hear that. My heart goes out to you because our pets are like kids, and they, especially if you've had them for years and years and years, they just become part of your life, and it's so hard to see them suffer. It's really hard. Hey, Fusa, good to see you. But yeah, just remember as we move forward towards the holidays, that there are people out there that are less fortunate than us, and that they may not have anyone to share their holidays with or whatever. So when you're at the store, or you're at Starbucks, or you're wherever you are this weekend on Black Friday or whatever, pay it forward to somebody and do it in the name of Abby and Libby. Abby's Angels met this week. They do their gift stuff every year in Abby's name. And so yeah, just do that for me. I will be thinking of all of you, and like I said, I hope that you all have a very blessed holiday, and that everyone stays safe. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and listening to me rant. I wanted to put this out there so that people could see that Judge Gold didn't just quickly and haphazardly want to remove these attorneys. She gave it thought. She had more than ample reasoning to do it, because, as I said, not just 1, 2, 3, 4 big reasons of negligence and incompetence on their part, and she couldn't let it continue and go forward. So, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And for everyone who watches it on the replay, thank you so much for supporting me and the channel. I really do appreciate you. I hope everyone has a beautiful holiday. Thank you so much, Lynn. And you guys take care of yourself. And John, I'll be thinking about you tomorrow. Big hugs to you and your family. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys all soon. Good night, everybody.